most important thing in the Olympic Games is not to win, but to take part. Just as the most important thing in life is not the triumph, but the struggle. The essential thing is not to have conquered, but to have fought well. This is the Olympic creed that dates all the way back to 1908. According to Forbes.com, in an article written by McCarthy, a 51% majority of Americans said that they had no plans to watch any of the 2016 Olympics. To better understand the history of the modern Olympics, we'll take a look at the ancient Olympic Games, the discontinuation and rebirth of the Games, and the Olympics in today's world. In order to learn about the modern Olympics, it's important to first cover the history of the ancient Olympics. Penn.museum.com says the first games were part of a religious ceremony that were held for Zeus, the father of all the Greek gods and goddesses. The name Olympics comes from where the first Olympics were held, which was Olympia, a city-state in Greece. BBC.com says the main event of the Olympics wasn't even related to sports. It was actually a sacrificial event where 100 oxen were sacrificed to Zeus. The sacrifice happened on the third day of the Games. The ancient Olympics were held in Olympia every 4 years for 12 centuries straight. The athletes in the Games were all male and came from all over the Greece Empire. They came from as far away as modern-day Turkey and even modern-day Spain. According to Penn Museum, the first year of the Games was 776 BC, and the first winner of the first race was Corwebos, and he won this stadium race. This race was a 600-foot race, a 600-foot foot race. The reason it was this distance is because it was a legend that Hercules could run that far on one breath alone, according to Olympic.org. The stadium was the only event at the first 13 Olympics. After that, long jump was added, along with discus, javelin, chariot races, and wrestling. The long jump looked a lot different than it does today. It's more closely related to today's broad jump. Back then, they had they had a stone in each hand, and they would swing their arms and then jump when the stones were going forward and throw the stones back to use their momentum to get forward. According to FactMonster.com, Romans invaded and conquered Olympia in 85 BC. The games continued under the Roman rule. The games continued under Roman rule. Rome was on the rise in 393 AD, but Roman Emperor Theodosius I put a stop to the games while he was trying to stop paganism in Rome. He was Christian and obviously didn't like the pagan sacrifices that were a part of the Olympic Games. The ancient Olympics were officially ended in 393 AD after going every 4 years for over 1,000 years. 1,500 years after that, the Games reconvened. In the mid-19th century, after an archaeological discovery in Greece, the Greeks tried to start new games in 1859 and again in 1870, but those attempts were not successful. It wasn't until Pierre de Coubertin, a Frenchman, had the idea to start the games again. So he held an international conference in 1894. With his new Olympics revival, every 4 years, international teams would compete in the Olympics. He originally wanted the games to start in 1900 in his home city of Paris, but the delegates at the meeting loved his idea so much that they decided to start the games just 2 years later in 1896, and to have the games at the same site as the ancient games in Athens. These delegates were the first members of the International Olympic Committee, which still runs the games today. The first modern games in 1896 featured 280 athletes from 13 nations competing in 43 events, with track and field being at the core of these games. This was also the first time a marathon was held, which was a 25-mile path, which was a 25-mile race along a path that a Greek soldier ran. To bring the news of a victory over the Persians in 490 BC. History.com says that a Greek man won the very first marathon. Now that we've gone over the ancient Olympics and also the beginning of the modern Olympics, we will look at the games in today's world. The first successful games were in 1924 in Paris. 3,000 athletes that included over 100 women competed. 44 countries were represented, and since then, the Olympics have been the cornerstone of all athletic events, including archery, rowing, and even ping pong. Today, there are 43 events in the Summer Olympics with track and field at the core. Since 1924, the Winter Olympics have also been held every 4 years, but they're offset with the Summer Olympics, meaning that we get to see some sort of Olympics every 2 years. The current flag of the Olympics has 5 rings that are all intertwined. They're all different color, and every national flag of today contains one of the 5 colors of the Olympic flag. The number 5 represents the 5 major land masses of the world, which is the Americas, Europe, Asia, Africa, and Oceania. Today, the Olympics are a chance for the best athletes of the world to show their talent. To name a few of the best Olympians ever, you have Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps, and even Michael Jordan's famous '92 Dream Team. These are considered the greatest of all time of their respective sports. As you can see, there is so much to learn about the Olympics, both ancient and modern. I find it very interesting to dive deep into the history of the Games and how they have grown since the very first Olympiad. The best way to learn about the modern Olympics is to first learn about the ancient Games, and then go over the end and rebirth of the Games, and finally by looking at how the Games are in today's world. So now that you know the history of the Olympics, when you see them on TV in 2020, live from Tokyo, you will understand what you're actually watching.